Hi everyone, my name is Chelsea. Welcome to Little Mountain Ranch. I am going to be doing something and I don't know if it's going to work. So I have to process a ton of potatoes. I showed you down in my root cellar the other day that we still have hundreds and hundreds of pounds of potatoes remaining from last year. They are doing still really well down in the root cellar. They're nice and solid, they're not sprouting, it's nice and dark down there. But they are going to be soon, so I want to start processing them so I don't lose them. I also planted fewer potatoes this year than I did last year in anticipation of having these potatoes in my root cellar, in my pantry in one way or another. So we're going to can some potatoes today, and we are also going to freeze dry some potatoes. I'm going to do them as cubed hash browns and as grated hash browns. So I'm excited to share this with you. But I do have quite a few bags of potatoes here, as you can see. I'm gonna go grab a couple more, and I don't want to take all those potatoes up into the house and wash them in my sink. The reason for that is there's still a lot of dirt left on them, and we just put in a brand new septic system, and dirt can wreck a septic system if there's too much in there. So I want to rinse them off outside. The wind's kicking up, which is kind of perfect timing because I'm going to turn the pressure washer on, and we'll have to turn the volume down on the video anyway. So what I thought was that I could use the pressure washer and not have to scrub my potatoes at all. There's a lot of potatoes. I don't want to hand scrub all those. Makes a mess in the kitchen with all the spray from the hand scrubbing. So I'm going to give this a try and see if it works. In the bag so they don't go all over the place, but it's working great. The pressure washing worked great. I still needed to rinse off a little bit of the dirt in the sink. It would have worked even better if I had had something, maybe a large Rubbermaid container or something like that with holes in the bottom, that I could have put the potatoes in out of the bags and sprayed them off. Then it would have worked perfectly, but it was still a lot better than having to hand scrub all of those. So I'm glad that I did that. So what I'm going to do now is peel some potatoes. So these are fingerling potatoes. They're a nice potato for canning because they're quite waxy, so they don't fall apart in the jar the way some like russet style potatoes might. I wanted to show you, I've mentioned this in a couple of videos recently, that I ended up with some scab on my potatoes. So this is what scab looks like. It doesn't affect the inside of the potato at all, so you can just peel them off. And that's the reason why I decided to plant some of my potatoes in a spot in my garden where I did have scab last year. So scab does last in the soil for quite a long time, but it seems to be mitigated quite significantly by consistent watering, not allowing the water or the ground to dry out. During drought conditions, scab can be a lot bigger of an issue. So I'm going to make sure that I keep those 2 rows really well watered, and even if I end up with some scab on them, I'll just peel those potatoes. The other patch that I have them in is a new patch in my garden, so hopefully, and I also got new seed, so hopefully I don't end up with an issue with scab in that patch. But so what we're going to do is start with the canning. I'm going to be doing some canning and freeze drying, but since I know that canning is something that's more accessible to a lot of people, I'm going to show you how I can my potatoes. Like I said, you want to pick something that is a bit of a waxier potato so it holds together better. There are several different ways that you'll see people can potatoes if you're looking this up online. You'll see them doing it like I'm doing it, which is with the kind of the recommended canning guidelines, and I'll explain why I choose that option in a second. You'll see people can them dry canning, and that's basically where you cut the potatoes, you put them into the jar. Some people add a little bit of butter and you can them without water. You'll also see people not peel their potatoes. It's your kitchen, so it's your choice what you do. I choose to do it this way, and for a couple of reasons. The reason that I peel my potatoes, and the reason that that is recommended, is because a potato is a pretty gnarly looking thing, and soil can get stuck in, even if you're very diligent about scrubbing, in these little nubs. And botulism, which is the toxin that everybody's really afraid of, the spore that causes the toxin that makes you sick, resides in soil primarily. So getting every little bit of that soil off is really difficult if you're just hand scrubbing them. Maybe if you use a pressure washer like I just did and are really crazy about it, you can get every little speck off. But peeling them pretty much guarantees that you're getting all of that soil off, and I will rinse my potatoes off after I'm done peeling them as well. The reason that I blanch my potatoes is because it allows for a bit more of that starch to get released from the potatoes. From what I understand, one of the reasons that they recommend blanching is it starts to cook them a little bit and kind of makes that process of making sure that that heat fully penetrates when they are in the canner a little bit more guaranteed according to the way that they tested them. So remember that, who is it that even tests them anyways? Anyway, the body that tests these kinds of things, they are testing them in a specific way to get a specific outcome to make sure that the product is as safe as possible. So they do extra things like blanching for the extra 10 minutes, and their testing is based on you blanching it for 10 minutes. So it may be possible that it's safe not to blanch them, but that is what they test, so that is why it is recommended the way it's recommended. So that is what I'm going to be doing. I like it because it releases some of the starch from it, and that's my main motivation for doing it. So that is why I choose to do it the way that I do it. We're going to pressure can these at 15 pounds of pressure for my elevation. In a pressure canner, I'm going to be using my electric pressure canner back there, which is a Presto electric pressure canner. I will also mention that when I showed this canner last time, there was several people that mentioned in the comments that electric pressure canners had not been tested by the USDA. And in fact, the Presto is the only one that I'm aware of right now that is currently tested and shown to be safe. And it's also shown to be safe at varying elevations. With a regular pressure canner, you have a weight on the top and you can adjust it to 5, 10, or 15 pounds of pressure. With a gauge one, you can adjust it for any type of pressure that you're wanting. And but this one, apparently either it's always set at 15, I'm not entirely clear about that, which is the highest pressure, so it's safe for all elevations, or it actually self-adjusts depending on your elevation. Either way, it's proven to be safe for all different elevations, and that one's just the Presto. I didn't know that when I bought it, honestly. I was just doing some research after you guys left comments, and I found that the Presto is approved, so you can look that up online if you want to check that out. So what we're going to do first is peel enough potatoes to do 5 quarts, because that's what my pressure canner can accommodate. I already have it warming up, and I have the jars in there warming up because I'm going to be heating these potatoes over on my stove through blanching them. They're going to be hot, so I'm going to want my jars hot and the water that I'm going to put into the jars also hot, which reminds me I should get the kettle going. And outside of the water, we're also going to add some salt. Make sure whatever salt you use does not have any additives in it, anti-caking agents, or iodine for canning. And the water that you use, make sure that it is chlorine free. We have spring water here, so I can just use the water straight out of the tap. So let's get these peeled. The nice thing about canning fingerling potatoes, I find, is because the shape of them really easily accommodates fairly quick peeling. So I'm going to get these all peeled. I'm not sure how many I'm going to need here for these 5 jars. And the nice thing is, for freeze drying, I don't have to peel these potatoes. They can just be well scrubbed. And then we're going to run them through my food processor over here and grate them up. I also have a dicing blade on my food processor, so we're going to dice our potatoes as well so that we can have 2 different kinds of hash browns, the little cubed ones and the grated ones. Every time you guys are here visiting with me, the deck is at a different stage, and now you can see it's completely gone. I know it's really hard to see because the camera kind of whites out the back with the sun coming through, but over the next, I don't know, how long do you think it's going to take, hun, for us to actually do this deck? Probably a month? Yeah, it's probably a month before we actually have the new deck. But like I said outside, I will take you on a full tour once we're finished. All the work we're doing around the outside of the house. The outside of our house was in dire need of some attention. We bought the ranch 10 years ago, but the house itself is actually 50 years old, and it needed some serious upgrades and just maintenance, general maintenance. We've been spending a lot of time since we bought this property developing the land and doing a lot of work on the inside of the house as well. But the outside and the kind of landscaping around the house was in serious, well, as you guys have seen over the years as it slowly degraded, was in serious need of some work. One of the things I've been working on while Dan's been working on getting the deck taken down and planning all of that is doing the beds around the outside of our house. And we made a decision, which I'm kind of excited about. I'm curious actually to see how it's going to look look in the end. And that is, instead of putting flower beds around the outside of the house, I am doing some gravel beds. And then I bought some wine barrels, cut in half wine barrel planters that I'm going to set in there and fill those full of flowers. And the reason for that is because over the years, I've had a heck of a time keeping my dogs out of the flower beds. I have Great Pyrenees, they're huge dogs, and they love sleeping along the edge of the house. And they just wreck my flower beds. So I did buy some little kind of half fences, but they're big dogs, so they can just jump over it. So this way there's planters and they're not going to climb into the planters, hopefully. And the other thing is we have cats, and they are outdoor indoor cats. They do have litter boxes inside, but during the warmer months they primarily go outside. And they were starting to go use the front part of my flower bed as a litter box, which is of course absolutely disgusting. So by putting this gravel in, we got 3/4 inch gravel to go around the house. That should stop them from going in there. So I built a frame. I'm quite proud of it because I've never done anything like this before that actually turned out well, to make an edge with 4x4s going around the house. And I'm excited to show that to you. I would show you the whole process of the whole thing, but I'm only able to do kind of little bits at a time each day. So it's easier for me if I can just, if I show you the end result, the big tour, which I know is slightly less satisfying, but it should be fun anyway. I want to mention that I have done this before when it comes to canning potatoes. So if I have new potatoes, so those are potatoes that are young, they're not fully mature, they're usually little tiny like that, early potatoes. And they are a thin-skinned potato, like say a red potato or some other thin-skinned potato. And I bring those in the house and scrub the dickens out of them. The skin actually peels right off of those new potatoes, so I don't peel those if I am going to can them. And they make really wonderful and delicious canned potatoes. I don't like to use them too much, only because I love eating fresh new potatoes instead of putting them in a can. But if you do have new potatoes and you scrub them and the skin comes right off, that's as good as peeling them in my estimation. Oh guys, I wanted to share this with you and I completely forgot until just now. I did a live garden Q&A Zoom call on this past Saturday, and many of you registered for it, which was wonderful, and it was a fantastic call, but we filled up. And so there were quite a few people that sent me emails afterwards saying that they weren't able to get onto the call because the call was full. So what we decided to do is run another call this coming up Saturday. What's the date this coming up Saturday, hun? Is it the 30th? Yeah, so the 31st of May, this coming up Saturday, we're going to be doing another garden Q&A Zoom call. So if you weren't able to make the last one, or maybe you hadn't heard of it that I was doing it, or even if you did make it and you want to come join us again, you can sign up down using the link below for that call. If you were signed up for the last call, you don't need to sign up again, because we're just going to send out the email with the link to everybody who was on the last call as well. But these calls are so much fun. We had a blast. It was so fun listening to people from other parts of the world talking about their gardening challenges. And it was actually quite eye-opening for me, because we live in the north and there's a lot of challenges with gardening up here, particularly with obviously the 110 frost-free days that I get. But I don't have to deal with snakes. I don't have to deal with iguanas. One of the person on the call had an issue with iguanas in her garden, which I just can't even relate to at all. And lots of different diseases, especially diseases that thrive in high humidity, warm environments. Oh shoot, I did actually nick myself. Let me go put a Band-Aid on that. Okay, so what I am doing for cutting these up is around this size. You can go a little bit smaller if you like. And what I thought I would do to show you what a finished product looks like and actually use them is I'll grab some of my canned potatoes from the fall, and I'll show you how I like to fry them up as a, for like a hash brown type thing. I also use them in veggie bakes. I'll throw them in there. I use them in soups, all kinds of things. So what I've done here is I've soaked these in some cold water for around 20 minutes, and that just helps get some of that extra starch out and any extra dirt that might be in them. And then we'll give these a little rinse. Honestly, friends, sometimes I forgot to blanch these, and I'm very tempted to edit this part out, but I am not going to. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we're gonna just backtrack just a smidge here, and we are going to blanch our potatoes in the boiling pot of water that I have right back there on the stove. And we are going to blanch them for 10 minutes, and then we are going to put them in jars. I was just thinking to myself why that kind of triggered that I had missed that step, as I was thinking to myself about mentioning, you know, everything being the same temperature, and then I realized I was picking up cold potatoes. I was like, oh shoot, forgot to do that. Anyway, we're gonna go over now, and we're gonna do that step because we want the extra starches out. We're going to let those boil for 10 minutes, and while they are boiling, I'm gonna run down to the pantry and grab a jar of potatoes and show you what they look like after they've been canned. This is what they look like after they've been canned, and you can see there's lots of starch in the water on the bottom there. It shouldn't be super thick and pasty at the very bottom of it. If you go through these steps, you do the extra soak at the beginning, the rinse, the blanching and the rinse, and you're also using waxy potatoes, you should be okay that way. But what I'm gonna do with these is open my lid here, and then I'm going to rinse these out in my colander. So you can see how much better these potatoes are looking, and they've held their shape well. They're not super mushy. So all I'm gonna do with this is make sure I drain out all the water here, and then you can even use some paper towel to dry these off a little bit for frying them up, but I'm not gonna bother doing that. We'll just do this, and then we're gonna put a fry pan on the stove, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of butter, and then we're just going to fry these right up, and they're so good. When it comes to blanching anything, I don't want to have to reheat my water over and over again, especially if I'm doing large loads or large batches like I'm going to be doing today with making all these hash browns. I will just use some type of slotted spoon so that I can scoop out whatever's in here, and then I can just put the pot back on the stove again. If you really want to get crazy about removing the starch though, because we're doing potatoes, it's not a bad idea to change the water in between, but I am not going to worry about it with such large batches. So we have 4.5 minutes left. So we're gonna take our beautiful canned potatoes here, and we're gonna add those onto our fry pan. So a little paprika to season them, a little onion powder. You could use fresh chopped onions. You can throw in all kinds of veggies into here if you like. Do fry up your potatoes first though, and let them get a little bit crispy first before you add anything else to it, and allow some of that water to steam away as well. You take these over, scoop them out into a colander, and then we'll jar them up. And over here we go to jar up our potatoes. Boy, I calculated that bang on for 5 jars. That was lucky. So finger tight on our rings here and over into the counter. The beautiful thing about the electric pressure canner is you can put everything in. So I have everything in now, it's on the heat setting, and then it's going to tell me when I need to put the weight on, or in this case the regulator on the top, and then it will tell me when it's going to start canning, and it just does its thing, which is fantastic. I do love it for that. So now I am going to clean up my peels here, and these are just going to go get composted because the animals do not like them. They would like them if they were cooked, but I'm not going to cook them. So they're going to go into the compost. I already have my freeze dryer trays here. I have a Harvest Right freeze dryer, and I do have a code. I don't remember for how much it is for, but I'll put a link for you down below for the freeze dryer. I have 2 sets of freeze dryer trays. So my freeze dryer is a medium Harvest Right. It fits 4 trays. There is an adapter shelf thing that you can get from Harvest Right that has 5. I don't have mine yet, so mine fits 4, but I do have 8 trays so that I can fill them all up with these potatoes, and then I'll put the 4 trays that aren't going to go in the freeze dryer for the first round into my freezer and just pre-freeze them, which is recommended for freeze drying anyways, to pre-freeze your stuff. I'm not going to do that with the first batch that I'm going to do, and then we'll do the second batch when the first batch is done. If I don't have some freeze-dried hash browns in my food storage right now, I'm going to go look and see so that I can show you what they look like when they're freeze-dried. I'll make sure that I show you in the next video what they look like when they're all done. They're just basically look exactly like hash browns, except for the fact that they are dry and light because they don't have any moisture left in them. I'm just going to throw a couple eggs on the fry pan over there so that I can have some eggs with these. Making food with food that I've grown on my property, so these potatoes I grew and the eggs are from chickens outside, just feels so good, but also just tastes so good. It's such a privilege. Okay, so what I'm going to do with these is put them in a bowl, and then I'm going to add water and a little bit of lemon juice to this, just so that they don't oxidize or turn brown. And again, that helps just to remove some extra starch, and also so it doesn't go brown while I'm doing the rest of it. You can use vinegar as well if you like. Okay, I am going to quickly eat my potatoes and eggs, and then I will get all of these done, and then I'll show you the blanching process. We're just gonna blanch for a couple of minutes, and then we're gonna have to drain them out really well. The nice thing is because we're freeze drying these, and the freeze dryer is going to remove all the liquid from it. Unlike if I were to put them into the freezer where I'd have to really squeeze them out and really dry them off really well, I don't have to do that in this case, which is kind of nice. And you see how quick and easy that was? I'm all about convenience when it comes to food. If I can help it, I prefer it to be quick and easy and not have to make me spend too much time in the kitchen. And these taste so good. They taste a tiny bit different than they would if they were fresh and fried, but not so much that it matters at all. Okay, I'm going to eat my breakfast. I'll be back with you in a few. Okay, so since I don't know how much I am actually going to need of this, I'm going to stop at this point. I have that colander filled over here, this bowl filled over here of the grated stuff. So I'm going to blanch that and put them on trays, and just so that I can have a better idea how many potatoes I actually need to do. But before I do that, I wanted to show you guys this blade here. So it's the blade, and then the blade on the inside goes around and actually chops our potatoes up. So we're just going to put that on there, clean this out. Put our lid back on. And we are going to dice up. I'm just going to grab a few more potatoes out of the sink. I just wanted to show you how this works, and then I'll just get into getting all this processed and then show you what we're done, or what we have once our trays are all full. But I just wanted to show you this dicing blade because I absolutely love it. And this thing for salsa making has saved me hours of hand chopping. I just love it. It's my favorite kitchen appliance probably. These fingerling potatoes are the perfect potato for doing this. Okay. Look at this. We have little cubed potatoes. It's perfect. So let's go over and rinse out all of this starchy water here, and then we will get these blanched. There's specific enzymes in most vegetables that will cause your product to be kind of weird if you freeze dry it or you freeze it. The texture will be weird, the color will be weird. In the case of potatoes, excuse me, if you don't blanch them, they will turn brown on the inside. So what you want to do is heat them up, and that alters the enzymes. There's all kinds of cool science involved in that. And it alters the enzymes enough so that that doesn't happen, and your product will taste good when you either rehydrate it, in the case of freeze-dried food, or you thaw it and cook it. So that's what I'm doing here, and I don't have to blanch these for very long because they're grated, so the heat can penetrate really quickly. And we are there. Put our potatoes from here, and then we'll get the next batch in. We're gonna run cold water. You can ice bath these if you want, or you can just run cold water like I do over them to stop the cooking process. Okay, so now all we're gonna do is squeeze out some of the water here and lay our hash browns on here. So you could season these if you wanted. I am going to be leaving them because I'll just season them when I cook them up. So even though these are pre-cooked a little bit, they shouldn't brown too much, but I want to get them down into the freeze dryer anyway. So I'm going to run these two trays down there. I'll bring you with me so that I can show you what my freeze dryer looks like. My freeze dryer room is an absolute disaster right now, so just pardon that mess. Okay, here is my freeze dryer. So I'm going to pop these in here. Cool, the vacuum chamber. Oh, I need to grab the other tray. One second. Okay, I will be back with you as soon as I am done getting all of these trays done. And by that point, our canner, it only has 36 minutes left, although it does take a very long time to cool down. I do find that the electric pressure canner takes longer to cool down than my stovetop canner does. So something just to kind of keep in mind. Really great for small batch stuff. All done. I ended up with the 7 trays. So I have the 4 trays of the shredded potato in the freeze dryer right now. I have 3 trays of the cubed potatoes, and they actually ended up having to cook for quite a bit longer. So more like 20 minutes to 30 minutes to get them soft enough to be able to put into the freezer. So they're sitting in the freezer, they'll go in the freeze dryer after this batch is done. And our potatoes here, still a little bit hot, have come out, and as you can see, they've held together nicely. There's not a ton of film in the bottom or kind of starchy potato stuff in the bottom, and that is because these are a nice waxy potato. So we have our 5 jars of potatoes. I still have 2 bags of potatoes left that are sitting out on the deck, so I'm just going to run through those slowly as I have time over the next couple of days. I probably have, geesh, at least 15 probably bags of potatoes, maybe even more, down in the root cellar still. I'm happy because I'm not under a huge amount of pressure to do that, because the potatoes aren't yet sprouting and they're not softening or anything like that. so I can take my time over the next few weeks. However, when that starts happening, it happens really quickly. So I want to take advantage of the fact they're in good shape now, but also not stress myself out trying to get them all done at once. I was hoping I had some freeze-dried potato down in my food storage. I do not, so I'm not able to show you, but I'll make sure that I show you in probably my next video so that you can see what it looks like. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me today. I certainly enjoyed hanging out with you, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye everyone.